This is always my favorite part of the summit, and I know this year will be no different. It's really inspiring to hear these stories and achievements of our awardees each year. I'm just going to say, I'm going to go off script here. I just want to say, you should all be in awe because these people are brilliant. That's why it's my favorite time. And for those of you that heard my story this morning, they're the good wolf, right? They're humble, they're so smart, they're compassionate, and they speak the truth. Science speaks the truth. So I just wanted to say that before now, I'll bring my poor board member, sorry about that. My poor board member has to follow me now. So now I'd like to introduce John Dennison, who is the treasurer of BioForward's board of directors and senior vice president of PPD, to say a few words.
I have to say something a little personal right now. This feels really good to be together with everyone in person. You know, when we poll our BioForward member companies and ask them, what do you value the most about being a BioForward member? The predominant answer that we get is the networking opportunities. And so to be able to do this face-to-face and mask-to-mask, it's really a great thing. So thanks everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. The other thing I was reflecting on as I was sitting in the sessions this morning and thinking about all the member companies that we have here and the great attendance that we have is in some ways this feels like a celebration too. And as we come out of the pandemic, to look at all of the members, both companies and institutions of Wisconsin Bioforward, and to think about the role that our companies have played in helping the world battle the pandemic and now try to prevent further transmission, it really is remarkable. So I think everybody in this room, we have a lot to be proud of. So with that, Board of Directors slide? Okay. Oh, all right. So on behalf of all the BioForward membership, I'd like to thank the Board of Directors of BioForward. Their service and their commitment is really tremendous. And I think it's a particularly effective board because they're so committed to the mission of BioForward and the idea of promoting our ecosystem of companies in Wisconsin that work in the biohealth industry. They're committed to the idea that we can promote this area much more effectively working together than any single company can do it separately. So it's a really great spirit that we have in the board. We have many great initiatives, and I look forward to hearing about the effectiveness of many of our different campaigns that we have going on. Next slide, please. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank the BioForward staff, so Lisa and her great team. I mean, the passion of this staff is unbelievable, and they're really the heart and soul of this organization. They're the ones that drive to get things done. So please, let's give the BioForward team a big hand. I'd also like to acknowledge Risa Guffey, of BioForward team, and Risa is really the horsepower behind organizing this great event. So Risa, where are you? Well, let's give Risa a big hand too. Thank you. So with that, I would next like to introduce Aaron Hagar. And Aaron is the Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Innovation for WEDC. And WEDC has partnered with BioForward on a number of our key initiatives over the years. So we really are grateful for their support, and we look forward to continuing to work with them in the future on initiatives that strengthen not only just our industry, but the Wisconsin economy. So Aaron?
This is really wild. I don't think I've been out of the house this much in the last year and a half. So this is my second event this week, and it's really good to see everybody here. I'm not going to go on too long. I really want to impress upon you that at Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, we understand how important this industry is. This is critical to our state's economy. It's an industry that solves real problems, and it creates real opportunity. So as we've all recognized the impacts that health can have on the economy, we really value not just your contributions to solving the COVID crisis, but all of the health crises that we see in the past, currently, and into the future. So I lead the entrepreneurship and innovation team at WDC. We get to see all the really cool new companies across industries, but particularly this one is close to my heart. I come out of the life sciences world. I realized that I liked it enough, but I realized that there are people like you who like it a lot more and really care about how those molecules fit together. So I'll leave that to you, and I'll focus on the bigger picture things. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's good to see everybody. Jessica, hi, I got your email. I'll get back to you. But I also, I know there are a number of WDC people here. We want to hear from you. So if anybody from the team can just raise your hand a little bit. And if you have questions, if you have concerns, reach out to any of us. We want to hear what's going on in your companies. We want to hear what's going on in your communities. We want to be able to provide solutions and work with you. And I also want to give a shout out to Lisa. I used to work for Lisa. Impossible shoes to fill, and you will never meet a stronger advocate for all of you than Lisa. So thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. Thank you to all of you for doing what you do, and we look forward to supporting you in the future. Thanks.
I'll let you come down because it's dangerous. Our 2021 lunch program honors two remarkable individuals for their achievements. The first will be Dr. Fred Lee Jr., receiving the 2021 Hector F. DeLuca Scientific Achievement Award. We are now in our 7th year with these awards. These are handcrafted awards by Tim Killinger, who contracted with local Wisconsin craftsmen to create these beautiful awards. Tim, I want to recognize you, so if you could please stand and be recognized. Next slide. This award is named after Dr. Hector F. DeLuca, our first awardee, who has been such an influential researcher and innovator, and who has had tremendous impact on our university. We've had many great honorees for this award, from Dr. DeLuca to James Thompson, to Dr. Lynn Allen Hoffman, to Dr. Alan Colley, to Dr. Mary Horowitz. This year's awardee is a pioneer in tumor ablation, and his work has resulted in over 250 scientific publications, over 60 awards, and 25 patents and inventions. Equally impressive, he is a founder of 2 venture-backed medical device companies. Next slide. And now I'd like to present Dr. Daniel Vanderweide, who will be presenting the Hector F. DeLuca Scientific Achievement Award.
Thank you for that. I'm really happy to be here to make this presentation to a friend and colleague of mine, Dr. Fred T. Lee. F. Scott Fitzgerald said, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposed ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function." For me, I'm happy to just have one idea in mind and still retain the ability to function, but I think that really kind of, Fred embodies that concept because he is, in some sense, a living contradiction in the best sense, you know. Fred is a leader, but he's a team player, and I've really never met anybody who can
show that kind of demonstrated leadership while not lording it over anybody and not bossing people around, but really just trying to lead by example. And I think that's embodied in his ability to identify patient needs and then respond with innovative solutions. Basically, it goes, Fred calls me up and says, Dan, we need to do this. And then we figure it out, and then we do it, and then we start a company, and then we do it again. So it's really worked out well, because when you can kind of sublimate, when somebody can sublimate their own ego and work as a team, that's embodying kind of a contradiction, because being a leader without having that kind of ego need is really, really unusual. I think also he's a contradiction because he inspires excellence but is humble. We hear football coaches and others who inspire excellence by cracking the whip or, encouraging people in sort of with the stick rather than with the carrot. And so I think it's a real delicate dance to embody that contradiction of wanting to inspire and bring out the best in people without necessarily having to berate them. So I really respect that. And finally, I'd say Fred is a living contradiction because he's a Michigan fan. And and I was going to have something smart and snarky to say about that, but unfortunately I really can't, in view of our recent performance on the football field. So, but I do think that in closing, one of the secrets I think to Fred's success is very strong family roots and an ability to recognize where he comes from and what he's contributing to society without, by recognizing the history. And I think if we had more time, we'd go into that, but because time is short and I want to bring him on stage, I do want to present now the Hector F. DeLuca Award for Scientific Achievement to Dr. Fred T. Lee, Jr. Don't drop it. Let me get off the screen.
Wow, such kind words from Dan, especially after the events of this weekend. I was on the 50-yard line, and I usually get snarky texts after those games, and I didn't. It was silence after the game this weekend. I want to thank BioForward for this achievement award. It's the singular award of a lifetime, and it humbles me because of all the people that have contributed to this award that aren't standing here today. At least you had a chance to meet Dan, who's been my partner for 20 years, and I think is probably more responsible for this award than I am. As I listened to Dan's introduction, I had to laugh because I've had other introductions in my life that were a little bit more humble. When I was a first-year resident in radiology way back in the day, I was at the University of Rochester, and I was feeling my oats a little bit because, I'm a newly minted doctor, and people are starting to call you doctor for the first time, and you think, you're so special. And I walked into my new rotation, which was nuclear medicine, and I walked in the first day, and the technologists were all standing there waiting for me. And I walked in, and they said, "Hey, Fred." And I looked at the tech, and I said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he looked a little confused, and he said, "Yes, Fred." And I said, "Well, how do you know my name?" And he looks more confused, and he said, "Your name is Fred?" And I said, "Yeah, my name is Fred." He goes, "No, you're kidding, right?" And I said, "No, my name is really Fred, and I'm very flattered that you took the time to research who I am and that you know my name." And he goes, "We call everybody Fred." And now it's my turn to look confused, and I said, "You call everybody Fred?" And he goes, "Yeah, first-year resident educational deficiency." So that was one of my earlier introductions, and I think Dan's did a little bit better job than that one. I find it a little ironic to receive a Scientific Achievement Award because I see myself as a physician through and through. It's our family profession. My father was a physician. 2 of my uncles are physicians. My wife, Marjorie, is an internist. And even our daughter is going to be graduating from medical school this year and be an emergency physician. And so I see myself as a clinical doctor, not so much as a scientist. And it's people like Dan that have taught me a little bit about the scientific method and about entrepreneurship, and I think that's led to me being on this stage right now. But if you look back in history a little bit, I mean, Dan told you about my strong family roots, and I look back to them quite often. My grandfather came here in 1918 from a small village in China. He was an orphan, and he was an illegal alien here in the United States, and somehow made his way to San Francisco. He changed his name, and it's a very long story. But he learned how to cook in San Francisco and eventually made enough money to go back to China in 1927 to marry my grandmother in an arranged marriage. When they both came back, they needed a place to live. And so those of you from immigrant communities know there's an immigrant network, a telegraph, so to speak, throughout the immigrant communities. And his network told him that the best weather in the United States was in a place called Buffalo, New York, and that's where he needed to go to. So that's where they went. And in Buffalo, they were the only Asian family. And in Buffalo, they lived in the ghetto, and they ran a Chinese laundry. And the kids were all expected to start working in the laundry at the age of 6. And they couldn't afford money for the rent for the laundry and for a home, and so they lived in the laundry with the children sleeping in between the equipment that they used to launder the clothes. This was during World War II primarily. My father was the third of 7 children, and he was very sickly, primarily because of the coal dust that they had to shovel to heat the water for the laundry. And so he was expected to not survive. And when he was 6 years old, he was sent to a sanatorium, which was essentially hospice for children in those days. But somehow he survived, and he left the institution and ended up going to the University of Buffalo and then to medical school at the University of Buffalo, where he graduated first in his class. He then became quite a prominent physician, and for the men in the audience that have had a PSA drawn, he's the one that introduced that into clinical use. And all those prostate biopsies and all that stuff, he's the one that developed all that. Now, what about the other SIBs? There were 7 altogether. So my father was a radiologist. There was 2 surgeons, a dentist, a pharmacist, a university administrator, and the black sheep of the family, who was considered a failure by my grandfather, who wanted all of his children to be physicians. He was a rocket scientist. And he designed missiles for Bell aircraft. So I tell you about my family for the main reason. I love bragging about them, of course, because they're incredible, but mostly because I feel like when I grew up, I did what our family always does. And I'm a product of the environment of my family. And I became a doctor just like they all did. And when I graduated from medical school and decided to go into radiology, I was following what my father did. When I came here to the University of Wisconsin, I followed a mentor who was a friend of my father's. And I thought I was going to be a clinical physician just like everybody else was. But there was something different here in Wisconsin. And when you work at the University of Wisconsin, you hear things. You know, you hear about Jamie Thompson and stem cells. You hear about Lynn Allen Hoffman with Stratotech, Rock Mackey with tomotherapy, and of course Hector DeLuca. You hear these names that are going through the hallways, and it makes you wonder, is this what I'm supposed to do here at Wisconsin? And so I started thinking about that in my world a little bit, which was tumor ablation, what Dan said, which is essentially we put needles into people using CT or ultrasound guidance, and we burn tumors from the inside. People recover very fast, and they generally go home that day or the next day. It's a lot different than a surgery, and it's clearly what the future of medicine looks like. So I was talking to Dan about this a little bit, and Dan said to me, you know, you really ought to do these with microwaves. And we had been doing it with a much more primitive radio frequency system up until that day. And so I gave Dan a spinal needle, and he took it back to his laboratory, And in his laboratory, in like 15 minutes, he was able to make a better device than what we were using on humans at the time. I mean, think about that. That is so incredible when that happened. And the two of us sat down one day, and we were sitting around my dining room table talking smart, drinking a couple of beers, and we said, let's start a company. And of course, I had no idea what that even meant, but Dan knew better than I did, and eventually we started New Wave Medical, which took 70% market share in the space and was sold to J&J in 2016. And so I think about all that we've accomplished over the years, and again, the same theme keeps coming back, is that you are a product of your environment. And I would say that there is something different about this state, about this university, about this town than many others. And we punch way above our weight in the biohealth space. I think you all are a testament to that. And so I don't know what it is. I've lived here for 30 years, and I know there are great things about this place, but I don't know exactly why we're so accomplished in the biohealth area. Other than that, it's some magic sauce about a lot of really smart people, something about the investments of the state and the companies in our environment, and people that can actually work together. And you might laugh about that, but I trained in Boston and New York, and I guarantee you that we know how to work together here in Wisconsin versus people on the East Coast. So what's going to happen now in the future? And in my opinion, I think we have to double down on the things that make us great. I mean, we have to recruit the very best people. And when I look around here, I can see that we are being successful in doing that. We don't have to take a back seat to anybody when we recruit people here. This is the greatest place on earth to live, and the environment is one of the greatest to work. I think we have to invest heavily in the areas that we can be successful, and I think we're doing that. And lastly, and I look around at a bunch of you who are of Scandinavian origin, and which is a little different than me, and maybe are more intrinsically modest than us East Coast Chinese people, but we need to talk about our state and to tell about what a great place this is and to publicize it. I think we are way better than what we're willing to talk about because of our intrinsic modesty. So with that, I'd like to thank BioForward. This is an honor of a lifetime, and I can't thank you enough. WEDC, thank you also. The WEDC helped one of my companies as well, and so we appreciate that. My partner, Dan Vanderweide, who's been a partner and friend of mine for 20 years and has taught me a lot about science and entrepreneurship, thank you so much. And thank you all for attending. I appreciate the kind attention and your forbearance for my family stories. And also, thank you so much for helping make the environment here so great for innovation, science, and entrepreneurship. Thank you very much.
Is my headset working now? Hey. You're taking over BioForward. See, I absolutely agree with you. We got to keep speaking loud. So the theme is let's get loud, right? Let's keep bragging about ourselves. So thank you, Dr. Lee, and thank you for that inspirational story about your family. What a great story. Thank you. That was awesome. And thank you for your life-saving impact to tens of thousands of cancer patients for what you guys have done. And I know Dan, he's giving you a lot of credit. Obviously, you guys have done so much. We're proud that you're part of the Wisconsin family and have decided to stay here. Thank you. We really appreciate it. So now we move on to the 2021 Wisconsin Business Achievement Award. Next one. Oh, wait, before I do say one more word, though, one other thing you brought up, Fred, that I totally forgot. I did not recognize Rock Mackey. He was one of them also that won the award, and so I apologize. Rock was supposed to be here today, and he had to do a presentation on campus. He's going to give me crap now because I forgot him. So I just want to say thank you for bringing up Rock, because he is an awesome individual and has done so much for this community. Now, we'll head over to the Business Achievement Award. We've had phenomenal past awardees, from Bill Linton to Ralph Compton, who was our 2016 award winner. Ralph's, yes, you have to stand up. Ralph is here today. Then on to Cynthia Lancante, to Kevin Conroy, and last year it was James Weber. This year's awardee is equally deserving. Next slide, since I can't see the slides. For those of you who do not know Terry, let me tell you a little bit about him. He has always reflected visionary wisdom and insight. He could see things that others could not. He's not conventional. Why do things the way we've always done it? How can all of us do more for the community, especially entrepreneurs? He is a risk taker, and he is a proven leader that we should be thankful for, that he is also a part of our community, part of Wisconsin that's making it stronger, more dynamic, and a prosperous industry due to his decades of influence and commitment. So I will not be introducing anyone to present the award to Terry, because I'm going to do it. And then Terry and I are going to enchant all of you with a lively discussion, mostly focused around our entrepreneurial community. So please stand and honor this amazing entrepreneur, Terry Sivesind, as I present him the 2021 Wisconsin Biohealth Business Achievement Award. Okay, and now we're going to fall off the stage. So. Let me go to my questions. Okay, so just be careful right there.
Thanks very much, Lisa. I'm
So-
not used to her saying such nice to me, because she's usually giving me a hard
I
time.
know.
I'm not sure how to respond. She didn't put that out there.
That's
Anyway,
okay.
Thanks
That's
very
okay.
much. It's certainly an honor to be here. As Fred mentioned, it's really something that you just don't think about ever happening, but it's an honor to be here with these people. With the people I sat at the table with, I know Fred and Dan for several years.
Hold on. You can hear me, but you can't hear him real well, right? Can we get, is he okay?
I'm not sure.
Wait. No temp. Okay, we're good.
I got my third booster shot last week, so.
Okay, what should we do? Should we have someone come up and fix him? Is that it? Yeah? I could be asking a question. Are you going to come up and fix him? Are you going to give him a mic? Okay. So, we all have to be, these things happen. So, if you have mic issues now. So, all right. Okay, well, I could start with a question. You must have done something when you were sitting around, right? You must have. I'll get the question going, and hopefully they can bring the mic. Or do you want him standing up here to talk then, or you're going to get him a mic? All right. Here we go. Okay. So, for those that don't, because there's going to be a lot of individuals here that don't know you, Terry. I mean, talk about your time. So I talked about it a little bit this morning during a panel discussion, that Promega really launched a lot of the bioscience in the 80s. A lot of individuals then went on to start their own companies. Maybe talk about that journey a little bit, about some of you leaving, starting your companies, but then that wasn't it for you. You then also said, besides the companies, I know I also have to do more for this entrepreneurial community. I mean, you started Merlin Mentors. You've been WIP, the Wisconsin Investment Partners. So just kind of talk a little bit about this journey, especially for the individuals that don't know as much about your background.
Okay, how much time do we actually have?
Well,
Because
I'm going to watch you.
it goes back a long ways, and the early 1980s was almost like the wild, wild west around here, because the biotech industry was brand new. Companies were starting. Promega was certainly one of the main local ones. I was there, Ralph was there early on, and there was no roadmap for what to do. We just had obstacles put up on our way, and we figured out ways to get past those obstacles. And so it was fun, it was exciting, and it was a lot of work, and things, I think, have turned out pretty well. We were there for several years. In fact, then Ralph and I and a scientist by the name of Tom Burke decided to leave because this sounds like a joke, but we thought Promega was getting too big for us. It was probably about 300 or 400 people, something like that. Now you drive through Fitchburg and you get lost on their campus. And so we started a company called Panvera. We started a company that we had nothing. We had no products. We had a desire to do something. So I basically started calling up people I know and say, are there some proteins you need made for you that you have trouble making yourselves? And they'd say, yeah, we have this product. And they said, can you make it? And I said, sure, we can make it. And then I'd go back in the lab and say, Tom, can we make this? Because, and things evolved. I mean, Lisa here was involved in a company right next door to us.
Yep, Novogen.
Novogen, there was a lot of us around. Everything actually most people did pretty well. I think Wisconsin has a really good success rate. I think because of the people that Fred talked about. There's a lot of smart people around, a lot of smart ideas. We're willing to work hard. And we ended up, the company that we first started, we ended up selling off, and we got involved with another group from the UW, from John Wolf's lab with Jim Hagstrom, and started a company called Mirus, which Miguel is part of. Miguel and Mirus are still going strong. It's actually it's a very good story that we should talk about at a different time, because you could spend a lot of time just on Mirus itself. And at some point, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I decided, well, I'd like to help other people start companies because I've had some success, and to be honest, it's a lot of work. So let's tell other people how to do it and let them spend all the time doing it. And I did that for a while, and then decided, well, it's hard to do this one-on-one. So Dick Leeser and I started a group called Wisconsin Investment Partners. I think at the time it was the first angel investor group in the state. Mainly as a matchmaker. I mean, Ralph raised a lot of money for companies in the past. He'd have to knock on 50 doors looking for people to invest. Why not have a situation where he can talk to 50 people at the same time and try to get the message across that way? And that did well. We said, well, that helps with the investor side of things. What about people that want to start companies that don't really have a experience, and how do they learn more about things? So we started a group called Merlin Mentors. The idea had been kicked around for a while, and then Tony Sykes and I just sat down one day and said, let's just start calling people. So we started calling people and say, do you want to be a volunteer mentor with this group and help people start companies? And now they've been around about 13 years, and there's over 100 people that provide mentoring services to local entrepreneurial groups. So those are the kinds of things I think I'd like to do now, is that you can make an impact sort of community-wide by putting together groups like Starting Block Madison and the MadWorks Business Accelerator, things like that, that can provide people with resources that when you and I and Ralph and Fred and Dan and other people were back in several years ago were trying to start companies, we didn't have resources available to us. It was basically figure out how to do it on your own. So let's now share that experience we've had with a lot of other people.
Although, don't you think, when we had the 80s, 90s, certainly when we started Novogen, I thought what was interesting, I mean, thank God for this community. Fred, you touched on it. I mean, I think there's ways that we have pulled together. So when we started Novogen, we had MG&E giving us a loan to get started. We have Madison Development Corp. What an asset here. I mean, we took a couple loans from them. The state certainly supported, we could get an SBA loan, but you're right, it still was more of a little bit of what, we didn't have the angel investor, we just didn't have that, so I give you credit for, did you lose me now? Am I gone?
You were for a second, I think.
Am I back? Okay. Did you guys come in? Anyway, I think you know, or should I keep losing, is it my position? Oh, okay, am I better now? All right, so I think it's great that you these things that, I don't know, it's not working.
Yeah, don't look at me.
Oh, I have to, oh, that sucks. I have to be able to talk. Okay, so I don't think I can do this. Can I just take it off? No? Can I just, yeah, I'm just going to take it off. So there. All right, we're just going to do this.
Sounds good.
Yep, there, this looks good. Anyway, I'm with Terry. This is what happens when you do something like this. This is what he requested, so anyway. So anyway, we also had the University Research Park with the MG&E Innovation Center. And so one of the things that Terry and I were talking about, one of the things that the community kept saying all over the years, so here's Terry, he's working on the investment side, he's working on the mentoring side, but one of the things we also really needed for this industry was a shared lab space. And again, Terry was one of the vocal ones. Many people in this community were vocal about getting that going. And so now we have it. We have Jessica Martin-Eckerly here, who is running Forward Biolabs, and we're really proud of this launch. This started a few years ago. WDC has been involved in funding. And so Terry, I mean, I'd like you just to talk about the importance of that and why this is really critical in this community. We want to see it happening in Milwaukee. We've certainly the coast, we've seen it elsewhere. So it's kind of this progression with Wisconsin, what we've been going through. Why don't you talk a little bit about just why this was so critical to get Forward Biolabs up and going?
Yeah, it was kind of frustrating because we all knew it was something we needed to have done for the industry, and we had trouble figuring out how to do it from a financial standpoint. As you said, I mean, Pam's here from MG&E. We did have an MG&E incubation center at the very beginning out at the University Research Park, and it worked out really well. It provided us lab space, office space, and some basic equipment that we could use. Because when you're a biotech company, one of the reasons that biotech sort of falls out of favor every once in a while with investors is there's often a big capital investment in equipment that has to be done, and it has to be done for each company. And so and even if you're only using that equipment, 20% of the time, it's still sitting there in your laboratory. So the idea of a true shared laboratory that had equipment that could be used by everybody and all the equipment you'd actually need is just, I mean, it's a no-brainer because it's the best way to get small companies up and running quicker and with less money than you would do it otherwise. So like I said, I think I've been involved at least 2 or 3 different times, failed attempts to do it. And so it was been maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I know BioForward and WDC and Promega and URP and MG&E and WARF. That's basically the Hall of Fame of biotech community right there. Got together and made it reality. And I know some of the companies that have been involved there, they've all sung praises of what's happened there. And I think if we could do that and maybe repeat that in other places around the state, I mean, certainly building infrastructure for small companies is a great use of WDC funds, Aaron. So I think you'd find that we'd become even more and more nationally known than we are right now.
So are there any other challenges? Again, we talked, Terry, that we're pretty blunt. We pretty much say whatever's on our mind. Are there other things that you'd like to challenge our state, our industry, anything else? Or as you're looking, again, as you guys look to create first the Wisconsin Investment Partners and Merlin Mentors, what else do we need to be doing, do you think, to take us the next step to, again, challenge ourselves so we can, grow this biohealth industry even more and get investors, get partners looking here? Are there other things that you think we should be challenging ourselves right now?
Well, there's a few things we could probably do, and I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the state being involved in everything. I think there's a reason there's state sector, there's a reason there's private sector, but there's certainly areas that they can work together. I saw a sign upstairs on one of the sponsor boards. One big difference between now and there was many years ago is look at all the national companies that have operations here in Wisconsin. I mean, I don't want to list them all because I'm going to miss quite a few of them, but there's PPD and there's Aldevron and there's Fuji Films, and there's Gamma Bio, there's Clonetech Takara, Illumina, there's a long list. Yep. And so we've already got those people operating here. They're having good success, good experience working here. I would think one thing we could do, and I know in the past we've tried to get either people moving here or companies relocating here, just work with those companies and say, let's expand operations. You're already here. You're already doing good things. Let's talk to them and let them be also cheerleaders for us nationally as well. There might be another thing that the state could consider. What about requiring every legislature to take a class at UW every year preferably a basic science class. It would not only it would not only increase their knowledge of the day-to-day operations of the UW and what a great academic and research institution it is, as well as being the major economic engine of the state, but it also might make them a little bit better informed on when they're making decisions based on science and medical issues.
I think one other thing that you had said to me, because when you do Merlin Mentors and investments, it's not just the biohealth community. We also have a very strong tech community here, right? Whether it's digital health, any kind of the IT, the gaming. You also said, can we do a better job of maybe finding ways to interacting between those, correct?
Yeah, I think Pam and there's a few others of us that have sort of presences in more than one industry here. I've been in biotech for a long time, and it's still my sort of first love, but I did get involved with Starting Block Madison, which does primarily programs for tech entrepreneurs. And let's face it, there's silos geographically. I mean, most of our biotech's out in the research park, most of the tech is downtown. And it's obviously much different markets. But there's got to be a lot of similarities on problems that are faced, and so why not? This is a great program. And there's a Forward Fest program in August that features a lot of the tech things, but let's have how about another program that features all entrepreneurs and not be too worried about what sector they're in, because everybody has similar problems, and it might be some good that comes out of intermingling of people that have quite a bit different backgrounds.
Okay. Great. Any other comments, closing comments that you would like to say? Thanks for bringing up the suggestion on the class. You guys already heard some of that from me probably this morning. I mean, I do think that we have to continue to, it's not just having a class on science or even entrepreneurship. It's that just understanding the value that this university system and our research institutions bring to this state. And we're fighting for that all the time. Just so you know, we have a great legislative counsel in Jordan Lamb that is always making sure, not only fighting for this industry, but for our university system. Because this is, we have just phenomenal university. Fred, you portray it. Dan, I mean, we can't lose the talent coming out of our university. So for all the students here, stay here. Don't go anywhere, stay here. And we have tons of jobs, so do not go anywhere. And entrepreneurs, stay here, make it happen. And I'm with you, Terry. The state can't do everything. And that's why I really appreciate, and all of you should appreciate, it's individuals like Terry that continue to devote themselves to community, to support entrepreneurs, to support this university, that keep this community strong. And so we thank you, but if you would just want to say any final closing comments, that would be great, and then we're done. You don't have to, we're done talking.
That's great. And I think Roland had to take off. Roland just told me earlier, they can't find enough people to hire right now. Yeah. And so, yeah, anybody who's at school or graduated and knows somebody, it's a great time to be a science graduate. And I think I really can't say much more than echo what Fred and Dan and Lisa have already said. I mean, I've been here a long time. It's just a great place. I think we do undersell ourselves, but that's sort of the way I think we're wired. And I think we should not listen to ourselves. We should be understanding that this is a great place to live, a great place to be part of the community. It's a lot of smart people around, I can tell you that. I mean, the best thing you can do when you're starting a company, I don't know if there's any entrepreneurs out there, is basically go out and find smart people that can complement the skill set you have. And if you do that, you're already a long ways to being successful. And so I think that'll be it.
I think that's good. Once again, the 2021 Wisconsin Biohealth Business Achievement Award winner, Terry Sivesind.